And I'm joined by Beth, of course, from Beth Blade and the Beautiful Disasters. How you doing, Beth, mate?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure, mate. We spoke about it off and on to try and get you on the radio show before, but it's never quite worked out. So it's nice to have you on, mate.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Without folks like yourself, us bands wouldn't get a platform. So thank you very much.
My pleasure, mate. It's always good to chat to people. Always good to chat to people. Obviously, you had the show the other night at the Waterloo. I saw some photos from that. That looked great.
Yeah, it's all good fun. Essentially with the Waterloo, it's kind of home from home now.
Yeah.
So ended up doing, a little bit of an acoustic set to open the night, and then guesting with their kind of house band, the Waterloo Vampires, and they just play covers, and it's great fun. I went a little bit overboard and ended up on the floor late singing Led Zeppelin.
What are you to do, mate? It sounds like a good night was had.
Yes, very much so.
How do you find the difference between doing, your songs acoustically and then doing with like full electric, all out?
Absolutely terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. So for me, it's crazy. I've been playing guitar since I was like 14, and I still get guitar stage fright, which is I think maybe it comes from the fact that I'm actually left-handed, but I play right-handed guitar. So I have it in my head that I'm gonna totally mess it up anytime it happens. So when you're acoustic, it's very bare and it's very naked almost. So it's really intimate. Uh and if you can hear that noise, that's my doggo saying hello. Um Agreeing apparently that when it's acoustic it feels very intimate. And the boys aren't there, and it's kind of like when you've got a full band, it's the camaraderie, it's the whole experience, the loudness of it all. It's a bit easier to try and get into character and into that rock and roll mode, whereas acoustic, it almost feels like you're in a room with all these people and they're essentially seeing you as stripped back as you possibly can be.
Yeah. Do you feel a bit more exposed, for want of a better term, when it's like that then?
Yes, absolutely. But oftentimes, it's actually a good thing. We've been doing some acoustic gigs recently, and people have actually been saying that they really quite enjoy it. Because, without the loudness, you get to hear the nuance of a voice a bit better and see the range of a voice a little better. So, you never know, there might be an acoustic album at some point.
Well, I like it when you get us mixing up. I mean, I remember going to see Rival Sons, and they did. Kind of long story short, Jay had to abandon the gig. This show in Norwich I went to because he was really ill, basically, and sort of 3 songs in had to kind of abandon the show. And when he came back, all tickets were valid and everything, and they said that we're just going to do this as a one-off for Norwich because of what happened last time. And
Yeah.
everybody's kind of wondering what's going to go on. All of a sudden, all the house lights went off, and then you can see sort of moving about the stage, and you're like, what's going on? And then they all came back up, and basically they did like a broken kind of bluesgrass version of about 6 Rival Songs numbers. You know,
Oh,
Miley on cigar box and double bass, and Scott was just on like a lap steel guitar, and Jay just sang a cappella, and it was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
yeah, that sounds really fun. Hailstorm do it sometimes as well. They'll do a like an evening with gig, and they'll do an acoustic set, and then they'll come out and do a full set. And I think it's nice to, switch it up sometimes.
Yeah, it makes it fresh, and I just got to be. I know from an audience point of view, I've always enjoyed it because it does mix it up, like you say, and
Yeah.
switch things around a bit. So from an artist point of view, when you're playing your songs as many times as you play the songs, and when you're hard working gigging band, it's got to be nice to be able to bring a different, showcase a different side of the song for it.
Yeah, it's always nice doing something different. And we always like throwing a couple of covers in there as well that, we don't normally get to do when we're just doing, a full band gig. Support slots tend to be, half an hour, 45 minutes. So you want to do all of your own stuff, and it's the high energy stuff. And then when you do the acoustic, you get a moment to either cover artists that you love, or maybe do some of the album tracks of an album that don't get played live so much. So yeah, it's great fun.
So you talk about artists that sort of influence you there. I'm always interested when I speak to someone. Who was the artist that made you start this? I mean, did you start off on guitar? Did you start off singing, Beth, or was it?
Uh, so I've always sang. There's been music in my house since I was a kid, and my first band that I ever loved and still love is Kiss. A Marmite band for a lot of people, but for me, they really got me into into music in general. And then when I was about I'd been in bands and things like that, but I'd been kind of, when you get to college and you get discouraged by teachers from doing things because, well, not everybody can, make it, and it'll be very rare if you're successful and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of went off and did some other things while still being in bands. And then I saw the Taste of Chaos tour in Manchester in 2010, and it was Disturbed, Papa Roach, Buckcherry, and opening the show was Hailstorm.
Yeah, I
And
was on
Lizzie
the show.
Hale came out and she hit a note that was maybe 30 seconds long, and they came out and they played, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. And then from that moment on, I've been pursuing rock and roll.
So if you could go out and support anyone, would Hailstorm be the ultimate for you?
So my dream lineup is Kiss, Ghost, Hailstorm, and then us opening.
That's a great lineup.
I think that would be a great lineup.
That's a great lineup right there, mate. I forget you come organise Just Push Play Festival, mate, with a lineup like that.
Yeah. It's apologies everybody. My dog is being very, very naughty, and it's because he can hear your voice, but he doesn't understand that there's not another person in the room. So what he's doing, he's running around the house looking for a human being to jump on and kiss.
If it helps, my sister's dog does exactly the same thing when I call her, so I know exactly what the little man's doing.
But then if I locked him out, he'd be crying then as well. So we've got a chaperone for this. for this.
So, speaking of live shows, though, and the next one you're doing around this way, obviously, supporting some good friends of mine out on the road with Dead Man's Whiskey Boys. So I'll be seeing you at the Norwich Day. You are playing the Norwich Day, aren't
you? Yes, we are. We are. Fab. Yeah, we're really looking forward to those shows. So, fun facts about that. So, Dead Man's Whiskey actually ended up playing on the Kiss cruise the year after we played on there. So it's going to be like a little meet up, and we can talk about how crazy that whole experience is. They're fantastic lads, and I absolutely love his voice. And we've never actually done a gig together before. Which is mad because I don't know how that's happened. Maybe we've been on the same festival, but not on the same day. So I'm looking forward to how fun that's going to be. I feel like we have the same vibe live of just having the best kind of rock and roll fun you can have.
Yeah, I mean, it's you guys and Twister supporting, aren't they?
Yes, so it's pretty in your face night. And I think the Hot Ones who will be joining for some gigs as well. Nice. And they're doing some other supports. So yeah, it's a big slice of new wave of classic rock bands for people to have a munch on.
Well, as you touched upon it then there, mate, how was the Kiss cruise for you when you got to do that?
Unbelievable. Yeah. Best experience of my whole entire life musically. Like it's like download on a boat with 24-hour food and beer.
Sounds lethal.
That you don't have to pay for.
Sounds lethal.
Yeah, there's some very interesting stories. I almost killed my lead guitar player Luke and the lead singer of the New Roses because, and they don't tell you this, you know how over here when you open a bottle of champagne and you've got to pull the cork out?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in America, as soon as you twist the metal clip,
yeah,
automatic.
Oh, already just starts
bang. And I didn't know about. And yeah.
So you shot them basically.
It missed his head by about an inch, hit the ceiling, left a dent in the ceiling, and everybody ducked because they were American and they thought it was a gun.
No, what you're doing was trying to have a drink, Beth.
Yeah, pretty much. I was trying to celebrate, it was the last night, and yeah, I was very worried that the lead singer of the New Roses was mad at me, but it's okay. He doesn't hate me.
That's the main thing. As long as you didn't make any enemies, mate, you didn't kill anybody.
No,
Any enemies?
no. But it was really cool. Like when we the last time we played, um this dog. Tell you what, bear with me just 1 second.
No worries.
I will be back. Apologies.
All right, mate.
I think that's the quickest I've ever given a dog walk ever. But yeah, so to continue, yeah, the last night that we played, it was like we went on stage at midnight.
Wow.
And in the audience, we had a couple of people from the other band. So the guy from the New Roses, Doug Aldrich was there, David Lowy, all the guys from the Dead Daisies,
Oh man.
and Kiss's costume designer, Wendy, who's a lovely lady. And yeah, it was completely, completely mad. And there was one night where we were in the artist lounge, and Eric Singer, who's the drummer for Kiss, was there, and Brent Fitz, who is
Bass player with Slash and the Conspirators, isn't
yeah, so he plays drums, and the bass player Todd was there as well, and the guy who wrote "I Want It That Way" for the Backstreet Boys. I don't know why he was there. He was just there, and they were calling out to Brent, who was playing the piano, and saying, "Oh, play this song, play this song." And there was a group of about 30 or 40 of us just singing along to all these songs together, and I was just kind of sat there like what is my life? How did I get so lucky to be involved in this experience? So yeah, I can't recommend music cruises enough.
it? That sounds like one of those moments where you're not sure quite how it happened, but you just got to go along for the ride.
Yeah, you just got to appreciate what happens when it happens, and we're very lucky, and the only reason that we got that opportunity was because of our fans, essentially, because it was a competition and we won the competition, and without them, well, that wouldn't have happened. So we're always very, very grateful for the people that support us.
Nice. Well, as you know, mate, this interview is part of the special show that I'm doing in like a launch show for New Wave of Classic Rock Volume 2, um,
Yeah.
which, is
Woo, t-shirt,
yeah,
yay!
good plug there, mate. Good plug right there. And they say good compilation of celebrating all the great bands we have on our scene. And I'm just wondering, from an artist point of view, I know from a listener's point of view, but from an artist point of view, what's it like on the scene right now? Because obviously we've just come out of COVID, we've had all that to deal with, and gigs can be tricky at times.
Yeah, oh, I would like to say that we've learned our lesson from COVID in terms of live music, but it still seems to be suffering right now, which is a shame. But our community, and the new wave of classic rock community, and all the bands that come under that bracket, whether they're actually classed as classic rock or not, whatever,
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. It's more about the movement. I will say that there's a lot of dedicated people who travel hours and hours to come to gigs. They go to cities all over the UK to see people. They go out of their way to invest in a lot of these bands. And the good thing about it as well is that there's a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah.
There's no, it's not like Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses, people falling out and having punch ups. Everybody is a really big supporter of everybody else. And obviously, people have their friends and whatever, but it's always really nice to see people. And that's the thing, sometimes I don't get to see bands that I love
Mm.
because we're both playing in different places, and then we get to see each other on a bill, and it's like, oh hi, how you doing? And it's kind of like a little meetup with all these people who have the same passion as you do, which is fantastic. And personally, I'm just really happy to be a part of it, and I like supporting my other ladies in rock as well. There's
Sure.
some fantastic talent out there, and yeah, I think it's a really good, really lively scene, and the fact that people think that there's no new music out there, well, they're very mistaken. We're on volume 2 now, and there's how many tracks on there?
It's
Like,
like 30 odd tracks, isn't it?
exactly. And they're all separate bands. It's not like repeats or anything like that. So, it's indicative that it is a thriving scene and there's so much to discover.
There is. I mean, I'm fortunate enough, one through the radio show. When I set it up, as much as I love the classics, I'm speaking as a man who has an Aerosmith tattoo. I love classics as much as anyone else. But when I set it up, I told them, I'm not going to play Living on a Prayer and Sweet Child of Mine every week, as much as I love Guns N' Roses and I love Bon Jovi. There's so much wealth of great bands come through the ranks, and that's continued over the last 5 years. That I've been fortunate enough to show a lot of the bands I'm fortunate enough to, like yourself tonight, get to speak to. And then I've got my own festival, Just Push Play Festival, which we try and champion as many of that while supporting the hospice. And that's why when I get people saying, "Oh, you really should get X back or you should get Y back," and I'm like, if I had, 6 or 7 shows a year that I was doing in multiple stages and multiple bands, I would happily bring people back every year. There's bands that I've got to know very well, bands I adore. And there's bands I'm a big fan of, and I'd happily have them back every year. But like you say, there's such a wealth of bands out there, and there are so many bands that, through a variety of reasons, normally it's diary thing, or it's just not worked out, or they're just a full bill there, and they haven't had the fortune of them playing yet. And while there's all those bands coming on, to me it's exciting to keep bringing new people back. And like you say, the wealth of the bands out there is insane.
It is so much talent. My current favorites are A Priory. They're
I've really
awesome.
started getting into them the last couple of months. I
Uh,
only
haven't
the
seen
last couple of months.
live.
But I've not seen them
And
live yet.
I tell you what, they played at Call of the Wild Festival when we were there, and they were fantastic. Even more fantastic because the night before we were drinking. And yeah, they're fabulous. They're kind of like this mix in between Rage Against the Machine and Miles Kennedy. You know what I mean? And then you've got like Kim Jennett. Her voice is insane. She's a pocket rocket, and there's. I'm really looking forward on Saturday for the festival. I'm looking forward to seeing The Treatment. They always put on a great show. And we saw the Karma Effect recently at the Friday for Stone Dead, and they're just fabulous. Like they're just as good as Dirty Honey as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah, they're up there.
Um, so it's nice because I get to be a fan too.
Yeah, and it's nice when you got that in the crowd. Like one of the things that Just Push Play that I love seeing is the fact that bands will go watch other bands, and I see it at other festivals too. Of course, that I go to. It's not just
Yeah,
mine. Obviously, being working back, working at the festival, you run around, you go back into like the green room bit, and you're like, no one's here. Where is everyone? And then you realise because they're not playing, they're out front having a beer and like
yeah.
watching the Carnival for Effect, like you mentioned, those boys, for example, when they were playing, for example, the other year, or I can't tell you how many people were like, Lee, how do we get out Florence Black on? I want to go watch Florence Black, and I want to go see this, and it,
Good. Yeah, it's a respect thing as well. For us, it's always a thing, and I'm always telling the boys, I'm like, it doesn't matter where you are on the bill. It doesn't matter if if we're playing to 10 people or if we're playing to 500 people. What matters is that we show support to the other bands, so we always watch the other bands.
yeah,
We always stay till the end of the show where humanly possible. I
yeah,
think the only time when I actually left a gig early was because my mum was having surgery the next day.
that's
And we did a gig at the Tivoli in Buckley, and literally we left. And I got in the car and we'd been gone for about 10 minutes, and the curtains on the stage had set on fire. And I was like, oh my God.
I remember seeing something about that now you mentioned that.
Yeah, it was like a kind of like a multi-band bill thing that we were on. I think Fugitive headlined, and another band called Crazy Born, and yeah, it was good fun. And then because the Tivoli is you know, a really old venue, they still have like the original lights
Hmm.
that create heat rather than the LEDs.
Oh.
And yeah, it set the place on fire. And then I was like, this is what we get for leaving early. The venue set on fire. And I felt terrible. I was like, I've cursed us.
I said you can't leave the venue early now, Beth, mate. You're just gonna
I
end up
know.
destroying them all.
I know. And I hate doing it as well because that's the thing. When other bands support you, it's wonderful. And I hate not being able to do the same thing. So it would be very rare that we would ever leave a show before the headline band is finished. But you know, even sometimes when it's you play with different bands of different genres, and even if it's not your kind of music, and I think this, you know, should generally apply to crowds as well, in that if even if it's not your thing, you've got to give those people the respect they deserve because they're getting up on stage and they're doing it. Everybody's talented. It might just not be your genre, or you know, might not be your thing, but they're putting themselves out there, and I guarantee that they're putting in maybe 30, 40 hours of work a week behind the scenes
Oh,
just
easy.
just to make that half an hour come alive. So, you know, it's very important to me to be kind and supportive and champion people like as much as possible.
I think it's important, mate. Like, I mean, I've seen bands who totally not my thing, not my genre, and had a really good night just because of the atmosphere. You
Yeah.
know, a prime example for me, we went to Latitude, which tends to be more of a poppy kind of indie festival down this way, but we went along for the stand-up comedy tent. Me and a load of mates, we basically just got pissed in the tent and watched a load of stand-up and had a laugh. But basically, we're going to have to miss the last train home to watch all the stand-up. So, and then the music continued a bit later on, and we're like, oh well, we might as well go watch whoever's on anyway because we're going to have to kill time to the first train in the morning. And Florence and the Machine came on, and I hadn't seen this quite early on in Florence's career. This is about 12 years ago now, and I hadn't seen Florence before. I'd heard their version of "You Got the Love," and that was about all I knew. But we decided we'll go watch them, and they were brilliant. Like one of the best shows I've ever seen, and still to this day, no one believes me that I actually enjoyed myself. And I'm
You,
just like, yeah, I
you
like my,
can't
but you know, if I'm still in the crowd and it's good, it's good.
you can't discount it. You never know what you're going to enjoy, and if you don't give yourself the opportunity to go and see it, then you're never going to know. Live music is live music, and it's to me, it's always a positive thing. There's a band again who we played with on the Kiss cruise called Vintage Trouble. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
I remember them.
they're kind of like a blues band, and their lead singer Ty is one of the best frontmen I've ever seen in my life. He's like a mix in between Michael Jackson and Mick Jagger, but with this soulful,
Oh,
bluesy
he's got a bit of
voice.
James Brown thrown in him as well, isn't he? The way he goes about on
Yeah,
stage, fantastic.
totally. And he just connects with people. And there's a lot of people I know who say, I wouldn't go see that. I don't like blues. I don't like that kind of thing. It's like, no, just give it a chance
Mm.
because you never know what you're going to fall in love with. And that probably is my favorite thing about music, is that you've always got the opportunity to fall in love with something.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
never know what's going to happen.
No, and it's exciting when it does, and it's even more exciting personally when it comes and knocks you out of the park and you're really not expecting it. I mean, you know, if you like the amount of times I've caught a band because they were supporting someone, and you go down early, you get your beer, you head down and watch whoever's supporting, and they come and knock you out of the park, and there's nothing more exciting for me when you think, for example. I mean, I just seen them earlier because I caught their set at Download, but stood in the crowd and I could see people when I was last off to see Rival Sons, and Dirty Honey was supporting them last year. And I could see
Yeah.
the amount of people in the crowd being like, oh, I don't know who these are, because obviously I think it was their first full tour of the UK. I know they've done Download, obviously, because I was there. But and then you could see people like really going, fucking hell, who are these guys, And then you can see them thinking Rival Sons are good, but they're going to have to, be up here as the headliner, and that's what you want on a night out. You don't want to sit at a bar getting bored for two bands. You want that experience of great sport acts.
Yeah. Again, it's that thing within this scene. There are so many good bands, and whilst the music business is essentially a competition, there's not the competitive nature in like, oh, that person's doing well. Why aren't we? It's
Mm,
never that. For me, it's like, oh my god, they are awesome. They make me want to up my game.
yeah,
it's inspirational, and your peers are supposed to drive you to be better.
Definitely, definitely. So you were, I know you're playing the festival. Are you playing the Saturday though, or are you playing the Sunday this weekend?
Yeah, so we're playing
Mm.
the Saturday, which is absolutely fabulous, and then on the Sunday you've got Scarlet Rebels, and it's these festivals and all the people that put them together are really important for bands like us. So, if anybody is watching or listening or anything like that, if you haven't ordered the CD, yeah, please get a copy. And if you could make it to the show, I have a feeling it's going to be an absolutely fantastic one.
Sounds good, mate. Sounds good. I mean, last year, of course, you also released your last album, Mythos, Confession, Tragedies, and Love. That was a great record, well received. Have you got any plans in the near future to start releasing new music, or are you focusing on promoting this one? Obviously, it was only last year, so
Yeah, so we're still kind of in this album cycle at the moment, and we're playing that music live as much as we possibly can. But then in the new year, it's going to be time to start
yeah.
getting the gears in order and running for the new album, which we've started writing, and it's a bit all over the place at the moment. The first song was incredibly heavy, and the other day I wrote a love ballad, and then there was something that sounds like Thin Lizzy meets the Stereophonics.
Nice.
So yeah, it could be a mixed bag. Like the last album was quite heavy in the subject matter um department, which I think was just kind of maybe a product of the time, post COVID, during COVID, when a lot of the songs were written. And I felt like I would be being dishonest with our fans if I was just going to pretend that everything was okay and write about happiness,
Yeah.
while so many people were being affected by mental health issues, suicide, losing loved ones, and I do think that honesty allowed it to connect with people a little bit more than the previous two albums that we've done. So I'm going to kind of retain that honesty,
Yeah.
but also maybe because I'm a little happier, there might be some more happier songs.
It's that thing, isn't it? Like when you're writing, I think all good songwriters like yourself, mate, will just try and capture how they're feeling and what they've got to say in that moment. It's almost like a little time capture, like you were mentioning Scarlet Rebels. They came out with See Through Blue post COVID and said everything they wanted to say in that record, which struck a chord with a lot of people. And then like, oh, you see, your own record struck a chord because people were feeling, in similar scenarios to what yourself was feeling you were writing.
Yeah, and I think after that post-COVID world, there is still a lot of, you know, uncertainty, and while people are getting back on their feet. But I think at this point, people need hope.
Definitely.
Yeah, people need hope to try and get through it. It was very dark for a long time, and now we're coming out the other side. So, I feel optimistic about the future, and maybe that'll come into the album, maybe.
Nice. So
Who
what does
knows?
so what does the rest of the year hang out for you, mate?
The rest of the year, oh my, so we've got the shows. So we're doing the Dead Man's Whiskey album launch down in London on the 7th of October, which is going to be fab. Love an album launch party because it just feels like a love fest, like a celebration. And then we're playing down in Cornwall at Rocking by the River in Saltash, which is kind of a youth music venue.
Oh, nice.
Um, we get to meet some of the teenagers who play music down there. That would be great. And that's October, and then when we get into November, we've got more shows with the Dead Man's Whiskey Boys. We're supporting Hand of Dimes, which I'm very nervous about because I'm going to be singing on the same bill as one of the best singers in
Yeah. I can
the world.
imagine. I can imagine that being a nervous one singing in front of Nev, definitely.
Yeah, I'm going to be like, oh my god, oh my, and I'll be there, and there's no doubt I'll either forget a lyric or I'll hit a note not quite the way I want, and I'm just gonna be like, I can't believe I did that in front of Nev. Like, you've just embarrassed yourself, Beth. Then we have Heretic Fest, on December.
Oh, you doing Heretic Fest December the 9th?
Yes,
Oh,
9th.
cool. I'm coming up for that as well, so I'll see you there then as well.
Oh, yeah, so it's us and Mother Vulture, and yeah, with Hannah who's putting on Heretic Fest. So we're very much looking forward to that, and then that'll be our year. And then we tend to have Christmas off, but you never know, something could come up. And then as soon as we get into January, that's when we're going to start demoing. And I think there'll be a new album by the end of 2024.
Oh, wicked, man. Wicked. Well, Beth, thanks for your time, man. It's good to speak to you. And like,
Very much. I really appreciate it. And like I said, without people like yourselves playing us on the radio and talking to us and getting the word out there, we would be nowhere. So, we're very, very grateful. And also, I really like your t-shirt.
oh, thanks.
We saw them. Were they supporting CJ Wildheart on tour?
Yeah, them, CJ, and Scott. Sorry, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then I didn't realize that they actually have a song in a soundtrack for, is it American Pie or Road Trip or something
Yeah, it's
like that?
one of them
I
too.
remember.
Yeah.
I was like, I know this song, and I tell you something, their frontman is one of
Joe.
the best men I've ever seen. Also, he was awesome,
Uh,
so full of energy and life, and yeah, he was
I,
very good.
Nice, top J, man. I really enjoyed that. That was one of the best shows I attended last year, and one of the best shows I've ever been to. All three bands were absolutely slamming when I saw the date in Norwich, and yeah, I was fortunate enough to have Jay on the radio as well. Really nice guy.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I'll send you the catch up link if you fancy checking it out, man.
Do please do.
Yeah. Well, mate. Well, I'll see you in Norwich itself with Man's Whiskey Boys, and then I'll see you again in December with up at Heretic Fest. So yeah, at the beginning of the interview, I'm going to play Tonight I'm With You, as that's the track on New Wave of Classic Rock compilation. But what song of yours would you like us to play at the end of the interview, mate?
Ooh. There's lots of options. We have 3 albums now. Hey. Oh, let's go with Persephone.
Oh, good call. Good
Yeah,
call.
something a bit heavier.
Yeah. Show another side. All right, Beth. Well, thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you soon, man.
Actually, I really appreciate it.
No.
Have a good rest of your evening and a good weekend when you get to it.
And you, man. And you.